It's the largest evacuation the state has ever seen. Tourists and residents given 48 hours to get out of towns across the south coast ahead of what authorities fear could be our worst firefight yet. The government has declared a fresh state of emergency for the next 7 days, and many are listening to the warning, with long queues of cars and trucks snaking out of the danger zone. It stretches more than 12,000 square kilometres, from the Victorian border to the town of Batemans Bay, and then inland to the riverina regions of Batlow and Wandalga. Tonight, as roads remain choked, a warning for everyone to be careful and patient.
They were told to get out. Holidaymakers packed the road to flee before dawn.
Be a bit scary being here Saturday.
Urged to leave every coastal town from the Victorian border right up to Batemans Bay, and there, stretching through the smoky landscape across the Princes Highway Bridge, a jam for kilometres just to get enough fuel for the journey. How long you been waiting in the queue?
A good hour and a half.
Some feared they'd be stuck. One woman leaving the car with a jerry can in hand.
It's just up the road a bit further, and it was like really nearly on empty. Didn't have many kilometres left, and just needed to get fuel in case we had to evacuate. Yeah, there's not really know where to go anyway with the traffic. Escaping
up the Princes Highway towards Sydney, gridlock, and all around reminders of why fire chiefs want tourists out by Saturday. The local oval a last chance to get some on-the-ground advice. For those in Conjola, the all clear came from police to leave, and there was no shortage of holidaying families lining the road, ready and waiting.
We end up evacuating down to the beach, and we just stayed there until it was safe to come back.
I feel more safe now, and that I'm getting away from the fires, because now I know that I don't have to have cold showers anymore.
Further north at Sussex Inlet, it was slow going, with fires temporarily shutting the highway.
We waited about 2 hours, mate, to get out of there. Letting 50 cars out to go at a time.
Some made the decision to turn around and head back towards Batemans Bay.
Confident that will again be restored, and we will be able to have people travel both ways, north and south of Batemans Bay, into the night and certainly tomorrow.
Some will try leaving again tomorrow. The escape routes are north along the Princes Highway out of the evacuation zone. And from Moruya, the highway has reopened to the south. Drivers can travel to the Snowy Mountains Highway turnoff and Bega. Patience could be your best friend.
You can't even see. You can't even see what's oncoming. Oh, well done, mate. You passed one car.
Just ask people to be patient. I know you can have kids in the car, and there's anxiety and there's stress, and the traffic is not moving quickly.
The fear is more situations like this. A family armed with a hose as fire circled.
I got it. Get inside. Get us a jacket.
Conditions on Saturday are expected to be worse than New Year's Eve. For those left behind, a humanitarian problem is brewing. Power is still out in some areas, and in towns where cash is now everything, it's hard to get. There are queues for basic essentials like food. Supplies are dwindling.
There's nothing cold at all. No milk, no meat.
The shelves at major supermarkets are in unfamiliar territory. Staff limiting access, allowing 20 shoppers at a time in some places to avoid a crush. Emma Richardson and her daughter Caitlin desperately trying to find what they need.
Oh, just some basics really, some bread, milk, nappies, dog food.
Food and petrol supplies are at the top of the state government's emergency response.
It's understandable that getting the basics is difficult for some, but the evacuation centres should be accessed by people in those situations.
Some will take their chances.
There's nowhere to go. Good luck.
There is an added concern here in Batemans Bay tonight, and that is the fire which has flared up behind me. You can see it is at North Batemans Bay, the other side of the Clyde River from where we are. Roads have been closed in that area. There are also holidaymakers who remain in town despite the warning from the RFS to get out before Saturday. Some feel it is safer to be here by the water than on a highway. Some motorists also returning to town over the bridge over the Clyde River after fire shut the Princes Highway at Milton earlier on today. Tonight, Mark, Batemans Bay is far from a ghost town. The mood, though, here does remain calm, with tomorrow looming as the calm before the storm.
Indeed. OK, Jonathan, thank you. The full extent of the destruction is still being realised. 382 homes have been lost across the south coast so far, and that figure is almost certain to rise. Some of the worst affected areas include Malua Bay, which has seen 40 houses destroyed, and Conjola Park, where at least 89 homes are gone. One of those houses belonged to rugby league legend Ron Coote. Daniel Post is at Conjola Park.
Mark, that figure of 89 will rise. We've got RFS currently going house to house and tagging them, and I'm told that it has only reached 20% of fire-affected areas. Now, we've been out on the lake today, and in the most isolated part, there are homes destroyed that have not yet been tallied, including that of rugby league legend Ron Coote. He stayed to fight the blaze, but his wife and daughter had to jump into the lake to survive. On the shoreline of Lake Conjola, there was a little bit of rugby league heaven. Ron Coote, one of the greatest names of the game among the former stars who made their home here and who lost almost everything in the fires.
We was in the back here just hosing all this, trying to hose the back there.
Ron's wife, daughter and some elderly neighbours had made a run for it.
Well, lucky they were left when they did, because this is all burnt. So if they left it in later, they wouldn't have been able to get down.
Wouldn't have been able to get down there, no. But they made it down there, and they were in the water for quite a while. Dave come along on his jet ski and pulled them out of the water.
A winner on the field in his heyday, Ron found himself fighting a losing battle.
We were hosing all this and putting it out, and was flaring back up, but we were putting it out. But what we didn't realise is that the embers had got in under the roof, and all of a sudden we've seen the smoke coming out of the roof. A bit of a bugger, but...
Going strongly up the sideline here.
Ron was a star of rugby league in the 60s and 70s, playing for Souths, the Roosters, New South Wales and Australia. His home was packed with footy memorabilia, most of it lost.
Grand finals and a few Australian jumpers, things, great memories for me, We've lost all them, yeah.
A few little bits survived, including team photos on the wall of his bloke's room.
I got 3 pictures out, I think.
But one precious thing was saved, the urn containing the ashes of Ron's mother-in-law.
Alma, good on you, love. She was a great mother-in-law. She was a great lady for looking after kids and stuff like that. So, she's been dead quite a few years now, but to find her ashes was, especially for Robin, she was pretty heartbroken, I suppose. Anyway.
Another Rabbitohs hero lived just across the way.
And George Piggins his house is still standing over there. he's always a lucky bloke, George.
Burned out on the nearby crest of a hill, another home with big league connections.
John O'Neill built that house up there. He was a great player in South in the 60s and 70s.
John's grandson Max saw the first front hit the house.
The flame just came out of nowhere over the top of them, and we had 5 people up there, and I've never felt fear like it. It was just horrifying.
For Ron, every footstep has a memory of a good life on Lake Conjola.
We used to sit out on the veranda here of an afternoon. A nice breeze was blowing through.
Ron Coote was never a quitter, and he's not about to start now.
I get a bit upset, but I feel all right. I'm okay. I suppose we lived here for 38 years now, and it's a bit sad, I suppose. But anyway, we'll build again and we'll live again, and that's the main thing. We're alive. I've got great kids and great family.
Danielle Post, 9 News.
Well, just when you thought you'd seen every heartbreaking image possible from this firefight, wait until you see this. At the centre of a heart-wrenching service to farewell volunteer firefighter Jeffrey Keaton, his young son, too young to understand the selfless bravery that's taken his dad away from him. This is Harvey. He's 19 months old, awarded his dad's bravery medal, who was killed fighting fires. Flanked by his mates from the Horsley Park Brigade. The yellow and navy of the bushfire battle honoured Jeff Keaton's gallantry while supporting each other.
If I knew the last time that I
In snapshots of his 32 years on Earth, it was clear firefighting was part of him. From a child to a teenager, the RFS was his family. A volunteering spirit Jeff passed on to his son.
He adored that, went to work for that, and that's what he was alive for.
Jeff lost his life fighting fires at Buxton on the city's southwestern outskirts just before Christmas. He was killed when a tree collapsed on top of his truck. The accident taking his best mate Andrew O'Dwyer too.
To fill that gap is going to be quite hard.
He was remembered with the thanks of the Premier and the Prime Minister. The flag of New South Wales adorned his coffin. A recognition this crisis would be much worse without people like him.
It was important to be able to honour his great sacrifice and his tremendous service.
Jeff Keaton's fiancée, Jess, and little boy giving him a last simple message. I love you to the moon and back. Well, as holiday families make a break for home to escape the fires, the people who live and work on the state's south coast are now bracing for round two. Another hot front on the way. Saturday looks bad, and that has locals working hard, preparing for the worst.
When you have mates like this, you have to thank your lucky stars. 4 fellas descending on the 4-acre house and paddock of their friend Eden local Sam Stewart, pulling out the picks and shovels and the rakes and putting their back into it. Sam's business is reducing fire risks. Today it was much more personal.
Getting all the fuel away from the house itself, my sheds and the garage.
Corey Walker and his 3 off-siders have been busy.
Done my property yesterday, helping out my Uncle Sam today, and I've got 2 little kids. Plan for the kids will be to go, and then we might stay and try and do what we can around town and help out.
The fire the people around Eden fear is the changing front of the big blaze that attacked Malakuta 2 days ago. If the forecast for Saturday holds true, that fire could race north, across the Victorian border and hit Eden. Farmer Michael Adams has been taking no chances.
You can never be 100% prepared, but I've done a lot of work over the past 2 years.
Michael's been clearing brush around his boundary fences. Would you stay?
Well, I would defend it, yes, absolutely.
Every gallon of water is precious here for chopper and truck crews. Dams like this are fast depleting to just puddles. On this isolated property, an RFS crew came back, repaying the load of water they'd requisitioned on New Year's Eve, filling the farmer's own firefighting tank, arming him against the fearsome forecast for Saturday. Also preparing forestry crews with their heavy machinery. It's a race against the clock for all agencies to get this very thick bushland clear so that they have some sort of fire break when the front sweeps through. With a bit of luck and a few mates when you need them most, Eden is getting ready. Liz Daniels, 9 News.
It was less of a photo opportunity and more of a chance for fire and rescue workers to talk directly to the Prime Minister. Just moments ago, Scott Morrison met with the brave men and women who are fighting these fires so he could hear their stories.
Scott Morrison confronted with the cruel reality of this region's loss.
So this is your town?
This volunteer lost his business.
We've got those planes going, you should be able to get that. Oh, your business? What's your business?
This firefighter, his brother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law. I'm terribly sorry.
The PM trying to rally these men, but it's hard.
Right now, we're fighting fires. Like we're very focused on what the recovery is going to be.
Even in the Bega Fire Control Centre, it was apparent how stretched some of these crews are.
Yeah, we've got no heavy plant available in that location at this time.
The disaster response might be endlessly frustrating for those caught up in it, but Mr Morrison defended it.
My simple request is to be patient, to have confidence in the state agencies.
Do you understand the frustration of people when you keep saying this is a state issue? This is the state agencies in control of this, because we've got fires raging all around the country and you're the Prime Minister.
I understand the fear, but what I also understand is the need to allow the professionals and the experts who plan and then operationalise these responses to do their job.
From Hawaii to Kirribilli House, Scott Morrison says he's tried to give the crews space, but as this summer gets hotter, the job will get a lot harder.
For as long as it takes, and it'll cost whatever it costs.
Chris O'Keefe, 9 News.
Extreme measures are being taken to ensure Sydney doesn't succumb to the hundreds of fires burning on its outskirts. The state of emergency has been declared as conditions prepare to take a turn for the worst.
With almost every corner of New South Wales burning.
We will be declaring a state of emergency from 9 a.m. tomorrow. That will last 7 days.
And Sydney is in the firing line.
Those widespread severe and extreme conditions are not only going to be concentrated down through the southeast corner, but the severe is likely to spread right up into Greater Sydney environment, the Central Ranges, Illawarra, Shoalhaven, and even the potential moving into the Hunter regions.
With very hot and windy conditions on the way, the RFS is concerned about the spread of the fires at Gospers Mountain and Greenwattle Creek. Conditions expected to reach the mid to low 40s on Saturday, fuelled by strong winds sweeping in. And with wind comes more smoke. Goulburn measuring the most hazardous air quality ever recorded in our state's history, turning the nearby capital nearly invisible. Today, several medical procedures at Canberra Hospital forced to be cancelled.
I don't really know what else to do. It's kind of, it's scary times. It's either this or go and sit at home with my packed bag ready to leave.
From the nation's capital to the country's national sport, this weekend's Sydney test at risk of being delayed.
Basically, when it gets smoky, we're coming off. And our doc, I think, is having a pretty big say in reading the levels of air quality.
Today, Glenn McGrath announcing funds raised on day one of the pink test will go to the RFS.
Being a country boy, the bush is something I feel very close to, and I know the sense of community and the generosity and the way people in Australia really come together.
Grace Fitzgibbon, 9 News.